In this video, I'm going to show you the results of my 7-day hobby drive. I know most of you may be thinking, 7 days, that's nothing. I hobby every day. However, to me, hobby is gaming, reading, miniatures, crochet, movies, and so much other junk that I just don't have time for. I dedicated 7 days to miniature hobbying. That's not just on a single mini, but really what I felt like doing during that evening. Take this worm-spat warrior for example. I didn't actually like his long hair or the spikes on his back, so I took them off. I molded some grotesque looking boils instead. That was only one evening's work. Inspired by bill making stuff, I set out to create some basing for a couple of my larger miniatures using my own special brew of custard. This one is made of 3 parts PVA, 1 part dried coffee grinds, 1 part sawdust, and a little bit of brown acrylic to add some more fuller colour to the mix. Dab that bad boy on some bases and you got yourself some textured landscapes. Mind you, it's good to scrape or sand your bases to give them some teeth for the PVA to adhere to, otherwise it'll dry and peel off very easily. Lastly, threaten your miniatures by hovering them over the base to see how they might look in the end result. In my second day of the hobby, I've had this hobbit character roaming around my hallway. In fear of stepping on it, I decided to pin the base and get some paint slapped on it. If you've never pinned a base, you can easily use a spare paperclip lying around. Chop off a few millimeters to shove into his leg, and the other end to prod into a fallen log. You got yourself a sturdy miniature. I wasn't overall happy with my positioning of the painting process. My hands were all over the shop. However, I have included the highlights of what I did to create the OSL object source lighting from the lantern to the miniature. I've included some paints. Honestly, I don't know what I used because I don't follow a recipe. Instead, I flutter around multiple paint pots like a honeybee at a florist's wedding. Instead of using ink to set the colour within the lantern, I watered down some red, orange and yellow to create the candle burn effect, then generously highlighted the hobbit in as much lighting as I could muster. So here's how the custard mix turned out. It's a nice texture overall without being too dramatic on the base, and the gentle array of terranium stones add to creating a glamorous cave-like dwelling for a grog goblin character. I have mostly followed the 3 paints you see here: leather brown, rucksack tan, and a slightly lighter brown. I do add also some sanguine base, which is my favourite colour to use in this P3 range. It's a deep maroon, which is perfect for shading many colours and adding a little dried blood speckle to the base itself. Perfect for Grog's dining area, if you ask me. Now, for the haters out there, I am painting from the pot, but I am painting rocks, okay? This is ghetto basing, and if you got a problem, maybe take it up with Grog.
Day 4.
I've had this little creature from Annual Twilight Miniatures. I always thought it was missing something, so I bought some cheap leaves from the pound store, slapped some green stuff on their back, and began the propagation period. This was a little tricky, but with some vigorous poking and prodding, we got there in the end. My wife has this small box of beads from jewellery making, and with permission I was able to create my own little blooming blossom atop this beautiful beastie. We have a lot of skeletons. Legs, arms, skulls, bodies, that sort of thing. And when I say we have a lot, my wife and I attended a Rune Wars boot camp a few years ago, and we ended up with more corpses than the local graveyard. I've kept them safe from harm, but maybe we can chop up them and use them for Grog's base. After all, Grog's been hungry, and red berry pie can only go so far in the wilderness. After washing up the latest nail varnish series from GW, it's time to decorate the base a little extra. Here's some paints that I'll probably not use, here's some more that I used in the skeletons, and here's a few that you've already seen before. I'm great at this editing lark.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
I'm using sanguine red again to shade the shield, while attempting to paint from 2 feet away while a camera's in my view. If I make mistakes, please don't point them out. Adding in a little turquoise shading to the broken parts of the shield offers a nice degree of verdigris to show the age of the skeleton shield. No hobby goes unwarranted without a meal opening. I've had the craving to play some Frostgrave for the last 2 years. I finally bought these cultists to add to my wizard band and for future videos. The box unfortunately wasn't in good condition, and one of the pieces was broken off the sprue. Not the worst condition, but it was a bit concerning when I first picked it up. Let me know if you would like a detailed video series on how I build, base and paint these guys. I have a few of these random bases from conventions I've been to in the past, but I thought I'd share an old modelling technique using these Green Stuff World rolling pins. Yeah, you heard that right, that's Green Stuff World. Lubing the pin up first with some Vaseline. Some people may need a little more practice than others, but you'll get there in time. This air dry terracotta clay from Das is a cheap alternative to green stuff or firing clay. As long as it keeps its moisture within the packet, you can use it for many cool projects for the tabletop. Flattening some out with a standard rolling pin, you want to try to get it at least as flat as at least 3 millimeters. Make sure you're able to peel it off your cutting mat at least. Using the green stuff rolling pin, make sure to dip it in water so the clay doesn't stick to the inside of the mould, and unlike me, roll in one fluid and strong motion across the flat of your clay. If you're like me and edge it halfway, you might end up staggering your design, but don't worry, we're not going to use that piece for enemy. Once air dried, this will take a few days. It's good to set it outside in a well ventilated area, and preferably on a wire mesh so that water doesn't pool in the centre of the clay. Break it into pieces small enough to lay in your base or terrain, and adjust to fit however you like. Just like our previous basing escapade, remember to scratch the bottom of the clay for your adhesive to adhere to, some teeth for the glue to seep into, and grab while it dries into your base. Otherwise the clay is too smooth to stick and it may slide off your base during some game action. I'm using a hot glue gun because I'm impatient after waiting 4 days for clay to dry. You can use a standard PVA glue for this step, but make sure you have your clay pieces aligned to the base, as this will react pretty quickly and harden before you can make any adjustments. I painted the clay with cheap black acrylic, and added a little slice of colour to certain tiles on the base to give it a little pizzazz underneath the dry brush. I'm basing a little adventuring dwarf character from foreground, who I think has discovered an underground temple filled with treasures and beautiful mosaics from floor to ceiling. Maybe he's just discovered this area, or maybe he's already packed and looking for the exit, but days trekking through a difficult labyrinth, maybe he's also doomed to sit in my pile of skeletons for a future basing project. While I paint our good friend Grog, why don't you sit back and listen to his story? Grog Bignose was born into a tribe of goblins that lived in the caves deep within nearby woods. Growing up, he was always larger and stronger than the other goblins, and he had an insatiable appetite for meat, especially human flesh. When he was old enough, he left the tribe and set up his lair in the dankest, most inaccessible part of the cave system. Over the years, Grog became known as the people in nearby towns as a fearsome predator, luring travellers and unsuspecting adventurers into the woods at night with fiendish traps and feasting on them, legs first. He took great pleasure in his hunts, using his size and strength to overpower his prey, and using his keen sense of smell to track them down. One day, Grog stumbled upon the lair of Elizagith, the Red Dragon, and in a fit of rage and sheer luck, he battled the dragon for 2 days and 3 nights, managing to secure a glorious victory. Taking the dragon's claw as a trophy, Grog fashioned it into a massive weapon, which he now uses to intimidate and crush anyone who dares venture into his lair. Grog is fully nude at all times, unafraid of the cold and uncaring of the weather and opinions of others. His large ears give him an acute sense of hearing, allowing him to detect even the slightest sounds from miles away. Despite his fearsome reputation, Grog is a solitary creature, preferring to spend his days in his lair, feasting on the bodies of his latest kills and reading nudie magazines to pass time. However, he still occasionally ventures out into the woods, searching for new prey to satisfy his insatiable hunger. Thank you so much for watching. I've displayed a few different projects in this video, so please let me know in the comments which I should feature in the next one. Hit the like button and share with any hobby enthusiast who you think this might speak to.